Hello everybody and welcome back to the Overlap Breakdown channel. As always, I'm joined by my co-host Umir, who's a professional football scout and analyst, and we're here today to cover if Liam Delap is good enough for a Big Six team. Liam Delap has obviously been linked away from Ipswich with his £30 million release clause now that Ipswich have been relegated from the Premier League, and I want you to just initially, right off the top before I go into any data, obviously he's pretty well known for playing for Manchester City. He scored for Manchester City's senior team against Bournemouth. And I want you to talk about your initial feelings on him as a player, watching him come through the ranks, his physical development, his technical development, how well he's fared in the Premier League, and so on.
Yeah, Liam Delap is a player who I'm a huge fan of. He obviously played for the EDS side, and that's the side that I kept a close eye on. Obviously, I'm a Manchester City fan. But that side was one that boasted ridiculous quality, and over a span of years had the likes of Cole Palmer, had the likes of Oscar Bob, Diram Abuda, Carlos Borges. So collectively, they were a really strong side, and to play number 9 in a side of that quality, demonstrates just how good of a player he actually is. And I will certainly get into his profile and things later on into the video, but generally, he's a player who has played in a different style than he's probably known for this season compared to when he was at Manchester City. At Manchester City, obviously, they're a team who have the same philosophy throughout all of their age groups, and he was a player who played in a high possession side, still playing on those moments of transition, but generally playing and attacking the box well. And at Ipswich, he's had to do a lot of that by himself, and he's been brilliant for it. The numbers obviously don't lie either. And we'll certainly go into explaining whether or not he can play both styles at the senior level later on in the video.
So in the Premier League this season, Liam Delap has scored the highest percentage of his team's goals. So I'm talking about one player scoring the highest percentage of their team's goals. So not Salah,
I was going to say Salah, yeah.
Not Haaland, not anyone like that. It is Liam Delap with 36%. And obviously this is a relegation team, the team that has been relegated from the Premier League. And I want you to almost convinced me that is a player that, even though he scored 12 goals, which is a very good return for a relegation team, I'm not slanting anything, but like Strand Larsen, for example, has got more goals than him in the Premier League. He's at this level, at this team. How do we get in there? Yeah,
so whenever I'm looking at players and whether or not they can make a move to another club, I have to look at the club and kind of the system that they're playing, but also look at the player and see what individual qualities that they do have. And have I seen those qualities, even if it's in a few situations, on show before? Now, when I look at Liam Delap, if you look at his qualities this season at Ipswich, he's been a player who has shown excellent hold-up quality. When you're playing in a team that don't have much of the ball and lacks some of that technical quality and just pure footballing ability to compete with some of the highest teams, you're often penned in deep. And in finding Liam Delap ball to feet, he's able to hold off defenders really well. He's a very strong physical presence, and he's done it in the Premier League this season. I think often when players have had stints in the Championship or who have been good at EDS level or at academy level, whether or not they can scale physically is always a question. Yes. But I think that's not a question looking at how he's played this season against top Premier League centre-backs. He often plays with this stiff arm, holds defenders off. He can roll them outside or inside, either way. So he's a tall player. He's quite physical, aerially. He often plays with full intensity in all of his actions. So whether or not he's chasing a ball in behind, whether or not he's pressing somebody, or if he's going up for a header, he sprints. He kicks the ball.
He clatters into everything.
His shots, and almost like a Jamie Vardy kind of in his intensity. So from a physical profile, I think he scales, and that's evident in what we've seen. On top of that, transition-wise, even the top teams are playing in a way where when they're pressed man-to-man and they're building up quite deep, there's big space in behind, and even the teams like Manchester City are still going long with their keeper, with their centre-backs, into players like Marmoush, into players like Erling Haaland. So in top teams who have more of the ball, you're still going to see those situations. And I think he runs in behind, he picks up the ball, and he brings players in fairly well. And then the third is, can he do it when teams are sat in quite deep? And at Ipswich, he's not really had the chance to showcase that quality. But for the EDS, I said to you before we started shooting, he's not going to have got worse since then. And at that level, he dominated the box brilliantly. He could win headers. his most impressive quality for me is his ability to get his shot away very quickly and on either foot. So, to be fair, we can go into talking about his favourable zones, but we look at this area as zone 14. Some of his best zones are, if we just bring him and use this player as an example, as Liam Delap. From that left side of zone 14 is probably his best area, because often he cuts inside to shoot with his right foot powerfully. But what he's brilliant at is going either way. So if a defender's here and they're trying to block that inside path, he often does a step over, he brings it here, and he can shoot with that left foot across goal. And you often see a lot of his goals coming in from that side of the pitch. The other thing is, and we'll get onto his movement later on in the video, but when he's in the box here, if a player does cross the ball from that flank, he often opens up his body and uses his right foot to put that chance away. So, quite a left-sided focus in his quality, but he can do that with brilliant box movement in high possession sides, no doubt about it. He's physical enough to dominate the box. He's strong aerially. So on all fronts, even though he's a player who's played for a relegation side, I think he can tick all of those boxes.
Very confident, I like it. So going into what you just mentioned there about him being left-sided heavy, obviously I've got his heat map from his season at Ipswich, and we can see, again, massive dark red spot on the zone that Umair is highlighting, showing that he's a little bit more left-leaning. And to back that up again, we can see from his open play touches, he's got 8, 7 and 10% going across the left side to the middle in comparison to the 3 and 3% on the right-hand side. Again, we can see from his foul map, a lot of fouls against him coming in that left channel. We can see a lot of them coming on the line. A lot of them quite deeper, actually, maybe playing as an out ball and, winning a foul deep for his team.
Hold-up play.
So hold-up play in the channels. A lot of fouls coming right in front of the goal mouth here. Again, showing the ability to hit him with a direct ball. And finally, as a last graphic, we can see chance creating carries, which is a graphic that I really enjoy looking at, because I think it just gives you a tendency of understanding of where they tend to move the ball when they're running into the box, especially when we're looking at attackers. And we can see here Liam Delap, again, a little bit more left-leaning, a lot of diagonal in from the left flanks, attacking the box, and can get a real good feel for what a player tends to do on the ball when we look at these chance-creating carries map, and we can see where the pass usually ends up. So how would he maybe fit in at Chelsea?
I think one point to mention about Chelsea is obviously he's got a good connection with Cole Palmer. He's certainly played with Cole Palmer in the past, and I think that's a nice dynamic to kind of play off of. I always look at whether or not teams that players go to in the future resemble any of the teams that they've played prior, or if there's any relationships that emulate some of the successful relationships that they've had on the pitch before. So that's one point to mention. I think what works for this Chelsea side in terms of getting Liam Delap in is they need that kind of box presence. And we've spoken about Maresca recently, the fact that they're facing more low blocks, and generally they're a team that have brilliant transitional quality. So the good thing is Liam Delap can fit into that in games that need it. But if teams are setting up deeper, and if Maresca's playing in a more high possession pinning style, then you basically need your number 9 to dominate the box, even if that's only to open up space on the edge of the area for your likes of Cole Palmer to get shots away. So, like the left-sided focus, I think will certainly show up in transition. And Palmer is probably a more right-sided player in transition. So in counter-attacking situations, I think that dynamic works really well. And that sort of through ball quality from Cole Palmer to a Liam Delap running in behind is very complementary. But in terms of actually being a number 9 in a high possession side, I think whether it's United, whether it's Chelsea, doesn't necessarily matter. I think if you've got a strong player on your wings, on your flanks, who can play those crosses in, or if you've got players who can link in and around him, then that will be how you maximise his quality. And I think United are trying to do that with their wing backs. I'm sure someone like Amad Diallo would work really well with Liam Delap. Dogu, I'm not 100% sold on, but a player playing in that left wing back fashion, finding him from that area would be good. Chelsea again, they're playing with Cucurella, sort of moving inside. I like when they played Madueke on that left side.
I think he's against Everton. I really enjoyed that.
I think he's better on the right side, but a left footer on that side is probably able to play those crosses more naturally for a Liam Delap, and then Liam Delap can obviously pull out here if somebody else is attacking the box to get some shots away. So I don't think from a set possession perspective, either team probably suits him more at this point. I think they both need sort of stronger crosses from the flank to get the best of his quality. But in transition, I think at Chelsea, he suits the Chelsea a bit more.
I would say you're talking about him scoring in a low block, and I think one of the things I've noticed a lot about his goals this season is that a lot of them have come in the transition. Do you not see any complications? I know he played for the EDS team, and obviously they play in a style, but we're talking about kind of the men's game here.
Yeah.
Do you not see any real grey areas about his, like, for example, I would want him to be a little bit aerially better in the deep block against, a set possession?
Yeah.
Do you not see sort of any real problems in terms of him scaling against the deep block? Do you not see that?
I think for as physical as he is, there are some questions about his timing on his headers.
Yeah.
I think you alluded to that a little bit.
Yeah.
In terms of actually because we've not really seen him against a low block recently.
That's what I mean. It's a bit of a grey area in the Premier League.
Which I completely understand and completely agree with. I have seen, for example, actually the game against Manchester United. Manchester United did sit in deep for periods against Ipswich. I think that's probably the best example that you can probably look to if you want to compare and if you want to see how he might play for a team.
He was great in that game.
Yeah, he was. And United did sit in deep.
Yeah.
When I do look at that game as well, and also other games from Liam Delap in the past, one thing that stands out to me is his ability to get shots off away quickly.
Yeah.
We look at some of the top players. Jack Grealish is always one that comes to mind. For as brilliant as he is, in transition he thrives because he's got more space to take his shots. Whereas against deep set defences, he often cuts in, he doesn't get a shot away quick enough, and they're often blocked.
Yeah.
Liam Delap is somebody who often turns and shoots very quickly. He kind of shoots from awkward angles, but he gets his shots away off quicker than most attackers that I've seen. And in the small spaces of the box, I think that's that's a skill rather that helps you, play in that fashion. Even if we've not seen it too many times, the fact that I've seen it a few times and consistently enough probably makes me lean towards him being successful in that fashion.
Yeah.
And then the United game obviously is probably the most direct example of that.
I really like him in hold-up play. I think he's a brilliant hold-up player, and I think I'm obviously a massive fan of Victor Osimhen. I've spoken about him so many times on this channel, just because I like the fact that you can play anything into him and he'll do something with the ball, and I think Delap has that same quality.
Yeah.
I think you can bounce it off him, you can leave him a loose ball in behind, I think you can play it to his feet, chest. Obviously I would like him to be a little bit aerially better, but it's not a massive grey area.
He's young as well.
He's young, and I don't think it's that big of a problem when he's that physical with his back to goal. He can use other parts of his body to bring it down. I think he's got a really wide stance. I'm not going to do it on camera because I look stupid, but he's got a really wide stance, so he holds them off so well, and he almost kills the ball dead when he does take it. And I think he's just got very gritty hold-up play that you want in the Premier League. And I think I look at Manchester United especially.
With the 10s.
The 10s running off him, in behind him, wing-backs, box to box. You'll have the same at Chelsea, but I think Manchester United have maybe got more pace in the 10s rather than...
In the transitional setup, the system works really nicely for a Delap at Man United.
So I just wanted to obviously jump off the back of your point of him not taking as many touches. It was something I've spoken about online recently, and I think when I'm assessing centre forwards now, there's a couple cases for different players. I think Retegui at Atalanta is someone who I'm a big advocate for this one reason. I think I agree with you on the sense that he does take few touches to get a shot off, and I think it's almost a direct comparison to Højlund and Jackson, who are I know Jackson scored a very instinctive finish against Everton, and it was a brilliant finish, don't get me wrong, minimal touches, looked like a striker who scored 30 goals in the season. Yeah. But Højlund especially is a player who's taking a lot of touches, questioning every touch, and I think low shot volume, struggles to make his own angles in the box, struggles to kill the ball dead. He's almost fighting with the ball when it's in the box and in these really tight spaces, getting frustrated that he's not killing it. So I think in terms of having a player who knows how to do that in the Premier League is a very good thing. And you want to touch a little bit about Delap's off the ball movement, which again is something that I've been heavily critical of Højlund for, which is almost not anticipating the balls and not knowing when to be in the right space. So please take it away with this.
I'll use the board to illustrate this. We'll imagine that the red counters are the team that Delap's playing for. No, I'm not. It doesn't mean anything.
Doesn't mean anything.
But let's say they're attacking out the left flank. There's a series of movements. It's sort of rudimentary stuff for attackers, but the fact that he does it so consistently means that I think his game can scale up to a team that plays more with the ball. But he often hangs in the player's blind side. So if a defender's obviously looking towards the ball, looking towards the open side of the pitch, he's often hanging in this part of their vision, so they can't see him unless they keep looking over their shoulder. And then he often makes these darting movements. There's also this idea of like sort of these double movements. I think Cristiano is probably the best example of it, where sometimes he feints to go this way. If a player comes here, then he'll run to the back post. Or if he runs here and the defensive line all drop deep with him, then whilst they've dropped deep, he'll hang back and he'll make these sort of two-way movements, and then the ball might come in and he'll get his shot away quickly. So the double movements and the fact that he hangs in the blind side is a really big positive for his off-ball movement. His off-ball movement is probably one of his strongest qualities, I think. And obviously that's not necessarily been allowed to be on show at Ipswich as much. But yeah, certainly one to watch out for.
Yeah, I just when you were saying that, I think just his sharpness. Yeah. Like obviously they call it a sharpshooter when they shoot really quick, but I think just his acceleration, so his off the mark stuff is brilliant.
Like, it really reminds me of Vardy. Now I'm talking about it, it's quite Vardy.
Start, it's just channels into the box to feet with the ball, without the ball. I think he's just so sharp, and I think just that in itself creates a lot of problems. Yeah. And in deep block, that's one of the attributes I see. Scaling well is just being erratic in the box, but knowing how to use it a little bit. Because I look at Chelsea and Manchester United's forward, and maybe they're overcomplicating things, and it looks like Delap's moving at the speed of light, but everything's pretty well controlled, and he knows where he wants to be. And if he is to move from Ipswich Town to go to Chelsea, Manchester United, City again, Newcastle could do with a second number 9. Do you see his character, personality being able to take on that task? It's something we always speak about now, because there's a lot more than just a football at play here. Yeah,
I think one question that would need to be answered is, how many touches and how much of the ball are you playing with? Obviously at Ipswich he's kind of the main attacker, so everything goes through him, and he's put up 14 goal contributions in his sort of first Premier League season, which has been really impressive. We've seen a lot of these goals in these sort of transition situations. Now at Manchester United you still might get those, at Chelsea you still might get those. If you were to move up to City, look, from time to time with Edison playing these long passes, you still might get chances like that, but you're primarily going to face a different sort of challenge. We've not seen it yet in the Premier League much, but obviously I think that he can still do those. Temperament wise, the fact that he's been educated at Manchester City in their academy for a long time means he kind of understands the philosophy of what it means to play for a team in that manner. And in those games, I assume there would have been times where he would have had the ball less often than wingers or central midfielders playing for those teams. And when I look at number 9s, when I look at Erling Haaland, for example, he's a player who's okay with not playing with much of the ball, and he's still sharp when he gets that one chance, when he gets the ball falls to him after 20 or 30 minutes without much involvement. And I think the fact that he's shown that in the past is a big plus. The fact that he's played well for a team that has been relegated demonstrates this certain commitment and this certain grit that you need all the way to the highest level. James McAtee's a player who I think was relegated with Sheffield before he came to Manchester City again, but he still has that same sort of tenacity that someone like Delap will have, and I think that scales really well for teams at the highest level, as well as teams who are just who have been relegated, the best players from teams who have been relegated.
Lastly, if you were Liam Delap, where would you move?
Oof.
Because you've got Manchester City, you're playing as second, maybe third choice forward. Chelsea, you go in there probably to compete with the number 1 spot or the number 9 spot rather.
Yeah.
You probably go into Chelsea to compete with the number 9 spot with Nicholas Jackson. You go into United to probably start every game up front. Where would you go? Stylistically, club pathway, the project.
Oh, it's hard because there's a million questions. I would say, going to Manchester City is the best option in general, because you're kind of at the peak in terms of like English clubs and clubs in world football. But as a young player, you want to play all the time. I think Chelsea is probably the best balance of both, in the sense that he can probably play a lot of games, and he's still got that experience in playing in the box with the ball, as well as some transition situations. At United, my fear is, I know Amorim wants to move towards playing the style that dominates the box, but if he doesn't get enough of the other pieces, again, you might turn into this sort of transition player, just playing sort of hold-up ball, or if that's not the case, you might just be staying in the box, waiting for the ball to get to you, and it never does. Whereas with Chelsea, you still got your Cole Palmers, you still got your Maduekis, who can make that difference in providing you a chance.
Yeah.
I think Manchester City is obviously the best if you can get some minutes.
Yeah.
I suppose it matters on what a player wants. But stylistically, I think a Manchester City, then a Chelsea, then a United. Interestingly, minutes-wise, they'll probably go the complete opposite way.
Yeah.
So.
It's interesting because I was going to say Chelsea as well. Even though I'm a Manchester United fan, I look at, if I was him, I'm looking at the players around Chelsea who can create chances.
Yeah.
I think if you drop out of form, Nicholas Jackson I think he's a better player than Rasmus Højlund. I think he can take some of the share off you if you're not hitting form straight away.
Yeah.
I think United, now you're coming into an environment where you have to be able to produce more goals. Yeah, like you have to score more goals than last season, and you have to score more goals than Højlund in his first season.
Yeah.
And I do think 30 million is a very good market opportunity. I think there's a lot of resale value in there, probably to another Premier League club who will happily pay that fee again. So I think scalability-wise, I think I just look at that and I just go, it just seems an easier fit to just go to Chelsea. I just think he kind of tops off an already bolstered squad with numerous options.
And they'll definitely reinvest in the summer again, whereas United struggle a little bit with that at the moment.
Yeah, so I think he's a centre-forward that I would like to have at United. I'm not like 100% on Liam Delap for Manchester United. I think he is a cracking player. Like I think he's incredible. I just don't think this is the right time for a player of...
Do you want a more experienced nine?
I don't like saying experience because I don't like overrating experience. I hate, it's like one of my pet peeves in football, like signing the 27-year-old over the 21-year-old just because he's played more. I hate that idea. But I just look at him and I go, the pressure, because I know Højlund and Xerxes may end up staying, but he will have to score goals. Like he will come in and he has to score. And there'll be no, like, Rasmus Højlund's fell out of favour. Joshua Xerxes doesn't look like he's going to be the man to score 20 goals a season. I just look at him and I really worry that, you know, he's just going to have to score. Like, he has to. Like,
even at Manchester City, you get a year to kind of
do you know what I mean? At Manchester City, you get a year. I think Chelsea have got a deep enough squad where you can be like, give me a year. We're in a project. You know, we'll probably get Champions League. Manchester United next season. We have to be good. Like the money they're going to have to spend, the players we're going to lose. Yeah. You know, they're probably going to go full faith in Amorim and go, this is the season where we start to build. Obviously you relish that opportunity as a young striker. Yeah. But if it don't work in the first like 10 games, 20 games, if it don't work,
we can kind of get
on the wall.
Yeah.
And I don't.
It's almost like a Sancho-ish situation.
Yeah. Whereas I think Chelsea, you do get a little bit more of breathing room because there's a lot more going on. With United, it just feels like everyone's going striker, with goals. We need goals. Yeah. And I don't like that dynamic for him as a person.
And also, last point I'll just add is the system that Amorim plays is fairly unique to most players. Yeah. And Maresca's system, Maresca was at Manchester City. Yeah. And it's a system that mirrors in many ways the system that he was already used to. So it's an easier transition for that reason as well. But yeah, brilliant footballer. To be honest, I'm really excited to see where he goes.
Yeah. Because I like him, don't you?
I'm a big fan. Yeah. And I'm higher on his quality than a lot of other people. But yeah, I do think he has the ability to scale really well.
No, brilliant. Thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy, please don't forget to like, comment and follow the channel. And tell us what you think about Liam Delap. And we'll see you next week on the All Black Breakdown. Thank you.